He changed his mind when I said I was bringing someone. I'm a 22-year-old female for context. While I was living at uni by myself, I messaged a man who had a PS2 for sale on Facebook. It was a really good price and looked really good condition. I really should have known it was too good to be true. Anyway, I message him about it and he says he will drop it off straight after work and that he is working on a building site near where I live. All good, right? Except he kept saying he will do me a solid and drop it right to my door, even though I repeatedly said I would meet him at a nearby car park. He said okay, fine. He wasn't happy about it, but whatever. I was getting my PS2 and I was buzzing about it. So a few hours go by and I walk up the hill to chill with my friend Adam, who's a bloke and the same age as me. I flippantly mention that I'm meeting this man for the PS2 and Adam is all like, "You can't just meet a random in a car park." I'm also very petite, do I guess if someone wanted to grab me they could, which was Adam's thinking. I agree to let Adam come with me and actually it was a good idea. The man texts me again asking if we are still good to meet and what will I be wearing. I thought to recognize me. So I tell him what I'll be wearing and what I look like, and then I mention I'll be with a stocky, dark-haired man with a beard. He stops replying, and deletes his Facebook account. I never hear from him again. I can't help but think something dodgy was going to happen, and my friend making me tell the guy I wouldn't be alone prevented it from happening. Facebook dating seems cool, right? Wrong. As I'm sure most of you know, Facebook now has a dating component to it. I matched with this guy who seemed pretty chill. He was older than me, his profile stated he was 27, and I just turned 23, but in my mind 4 years age difference isn't that big of a deal. We talked for a day or two and decided that we would meet up for a drink to get a feel for each other in person. When we met face to face, he looked older than just 27. He had quite a bit of gray mixed into his facial hair, but I figured he might just be one of those people whose hair turns gray earlier in life. NBD, we have a few drinks and chatted for a bit. He again states that he is 27. He was nice, but he wouldn't stop staring at me and was feeding my compliments with every other sentence that came out of his mouth. I'm really awkward and pretty average looking. I was flattered he was saying those things, but naturally it made me uncomfortable. I decided it was time for me to head out shortly after that since I had to be up for work at 4:30 a.m. the next day. He walked me to my car, and we started discussing his. It caught my attention due to the fact it was a 1970 Camaro. He then offered to take me for a drive in it. At 10 p.m. I declined, due to the time, and to the fact I had only known him less than 2 hours and he wants me to get in his car and go on a random drive late at night. That wasn't going to happen. I really enjoy watching documentaries about serial killers, reading creepy encounters and L&M stories. The last thing I'm about to do is get into a vehicle with an unfamiliar man who will take me to God knows where. I know what kind of danger that can subject a person to. He was very persistent about it, but I wouldn't budge, so I got in my car and left for my drive home, which was about 45 minutes long. By the time I got home, I received multiple texts from him, probably at least 15, most of those texts stating how much he already missed me, wants to build a future with me, how he's never fallen this fast for everyone his 38 years of life, continuing with further compliments, etc. That's when my stomach dropped. He just stated he was 38 years old. That's not what I was told at the bar or what his profile said. I replied to him, inquiring whether or not it bothered him that he was 15 years older than I was. It bothered me, that's for damn sure. He states that it didn't and that he prefers to date younger women around my age. I didn't respond and just went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, I had multiple texts and 5 missed calls / voicemails from that dude. Not going to lie, I straight up ghosted him and blocked him on every form of social media I had, as well as his phone number, which is a real asshole thing to do on my part, but he really creeped me out. He was super charming, but way too pushy and was giving me some Ted Bundy vibes, so shout out to Facebook for introducing me to the creepiest person I've ever gone on a date with. Don't hire people off Facebook. Classified. We moved into a house in the country about 4 months ago. Since we'd previously lived in an apartment, that means we needed to buy a lawnmower. Instead of putting out $200 on a lawnmower when we have to move in a few years, we decided to hire somebody to cut our grass. Initially we went with a guy that my fiancé used to work with, but $65 every 2 weeks starts to add up, and I was looking for something cheaper. That brings me to Charles. Charles posted in my Facebook classified that he was looking for some lawns to cut this weekend and he had a reputable company. So I sent him a message. Initially, Charles came off as nice. He asked for my address so he could stop by and give me an estimate. After stopping by my house, he sent me a message saying, "Damn sweetheart, you got a big porch." It made me kinda uncomfortable, but figured I was overreacting and started planning when he could come out. I told him my off days, but he assured me I didn't have to be home. I told him to come Wednesday. Wednesday morning he messaged me, "Are you home?" I said no. 3 hours later, "Are you home yet?" I told him no, I won't be home till after 8. Charles then informed me his tire had a flat, and he could come tomorrow, Thursday. First thing in the morning he messaged me, "Will you be home today?" I told him no. He messages back a few hours later, "Hey, are you home?" I said no, I told you I wouldn't be home all day. "Are you still coming out?" He then told me his truck broke down. He was sending messages like, "Please don't be upset with me, sweetheart." At this point I was getting really creeped out. I told him just come tomorrow, Friday. It's actually my off day, but I woke up and left the house for the day. He messages me, "Hey, I'm coming. You're off today, right?" I said yes, but I'm not home. "When will you be home?" "I don't know." He messaged me later saying, "Sorry babes, L was loading the equipment onto my truck and it fell and broke. Maybe I can come tomorrow." At this point I was really creeped out and I told him, "Never mind, I'm gonna find somebody else." Saturday, I get off work around 4 or 5 and check my phone and find multiple messages from him saying that he had cut my grass and I need to come home and give him the money. I told him no, I'll cash app it to you. He started getting really irate and saying that I need to give him the money now. I told him I would give them the money after I got home and thought the grass was cut. I was honestly really worried he would be waiting at my house, so I got a friend to drive home behind me. He wasn't there. I sent him the money and I thought that was the end of it. Fast forward to 2 months later. I'm on the phone my fiancé as I drive to class and he tells me he has to get off the phone because there's somebody walking down our driveway. I asked what he meant, and he said there was a man walking around in our driveway and front yard. After I got to class he texted me telling me it was just a man who had come by to promote his lawn care business. I didn't think anything about it as it had been 2 months, but later that night I got home and saw a business card laying on my counter with the name of the man who had been messaging me earlier. I called my fiancé Mike at work and asked how the guy had been acting. He said Charles seemed genuinely surprised that a man had come out, and asked if he lived alone. I asked Mike if the man had stopped at any other houses and he replied, "Now that I think about it, no." After he left our house he just left. Mike said he had seemed really desperate to help around the house and offered to cut the lawn, fix our porch, remove any trash or scrap metal we had around the house, and then asked if we had pests such as bats in our attic or anything. That especially freaked me out as we do have a bat problem and I had previously posted about it on Facebook. Mike then said what was really weird is Charles was very freaked out about the dog. He heard Max barking from inside and started asking a lot of questions like, is he big? Does he stay outside or inside? Does he ever go outside or is he stay inside completely? How big is he? Is he nice? Mike chalked it up to him being scared of dogs. He gave him a brief tour of the outside of the house and then Charles got in his truck and left. I then told Mike that this was the same guy who had been messaging me earlier in the year and Mike began to freak out. He said that Charles had asked a lot of really specific questions about who all lived here, how long they'd lived here and where they were at the time. He said he tried to brush them off but Charles seemed really insistent to know if Mike was the only one in the house. Before he left, Mike specifically asked him if he had cut the lawn here before or something and maybe was thinking of the last owners, but Charles told him no, I just happened to be out this way and thought I'd promote my business, the neighborhood. The worst part, I had taken my fiancé's car to work that day, which means my car was in the driveway when Charles stopped by. He thought I was home alone. I didn't contact the police because I thought I might be overreacting. This all happened 2 days ago and I really hope that we never meet again. Edit. Thanks for all the feedback. It seems the general consensus is I'm not overreacting and I should make a police report. So I'm going to, even if it's just to have in record. To everyone saying get cameras or a dog, I actually do have 2 indoor cameras and a third that isn't hooked up that I'm most likely now going to put over the front porch or garage. I have 2 big dogs, a chow and a lab, and even though the chow is very friendly in person, he's got a terrifying bark. The lab is incredibly protective and can be nasty when she wants to be. I was selling a meat slicer on Facebook. I joined a Facebook group where people would post ads for butchering equipment. I had this old meat slicer that was no longer in use. As I was getting ready for work one morning, I got a message. It was around 6:20, but that didn't seem to bother this very passionate potential buyer. He asked a few questions about the meat slicer and seemed a bit frantic, like his life depended on that machine. He requested a video call a few times to make sure the machine was working properly, which I rejected. As I was getting ready for work, then he found another ad I posted, an old typewriter. Apparently he was interested in that too. Asked me about the price, if it was functional, etc. Standard questions. We had texted for around 20 minutes when he asked if he could call me to seal the deal. I gave him my number, to which he said, "I can't call you, we're not in the same network. Can I call you on Facebook Messenger instead?" So he did. I picked up and asked if he could hear me. No response. I looked at the screen and, well, let's just say I find it impressive that someone managed to participate in a semi-normal 20-minute conversation about buying butchering equipment and a typewriter at 6:40 a.m.